Recap of your Philadelphia Flyers from Blue Line to Blue Line. Broadcasting live from Chickies and Pete's. Tonight's show is brought to you by Han & Stone Spa, Pat Dion Beverages, The Capitol Grill, Chickies and Pete's, Payroll Service Solutions, and Independence Blue Cross. We now go live to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Now, here are your hosts, former Flyer Brad Marsh and Paul Jolovitz.
And welcome everybody to Chickies and Pete's in beautiful Drexel Hill for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. We're here every Wednesday talking hockey with a great co-host and a great guest. No exception this Wednesday, as Brad Marsh, former Flyer, is our co-host. Welcome, Brad.
How are you doing today, buddy?
Doing very well. Getting ready for Thanksgiving, the holiday season. And what better person to get it ready with than one of the all-time great Flyers, Broad Street bully, two-time Stanley Cup winner, one of the great defensemen in Flyer history. We had his brother on. Now we have him on. Mr. Joe Watson. How are you, Joe?
Well, it's always a pleasure to be here in Delaware County. God, I live in Delaware County since 1974 and primarily the Media area, and I'm still in the Media area, but I've been here, came here in 67, but I lived in the Media since 74. So it's always a pleasure to get out and get around and meet some people.
Well, I'm in the Media, not in the Media area, but I'm here at Drexel Hill, just like Jeff Saturday was hired on Monday to coach the Colts on Sunday. But enough of the wordplay here. Joe, Fred Shero, you might as well start with this because you mentioned it. Fred Shero said famously, win today and walk together forever. You're walking together forever. You've been in Media since 1974. Do you think the Stanley Cups had something to do with you staying here?
Well, there's no doubt about it. That's true. If we hadn't have, we were fortunate to be here in 68 because of all the problems we had our first year. We lost the roof in our building, and we were like vagabonds. We played the last 22 games that year on the road, and there was no income coming in. And Mr. Schneider realized that if he didn't get any income, he's gonna have to sell the team and move it. And we looked like we were probably going down to Baltimore, Washington. But anyway, Mr. Schneider got it together, and he got some money to keep the franchise going. And of course, when the roof blew off the building, it was very difficult to survive because we were drawing 8,000 people a game, and a lot of revenue coming in, and you got bills to pay and everything else. But he got a loan from a bank in Philadelphia, and the rest is history. And you're right. We have 14 players at one time or another played in the Stanley Cup team that live in the area. So it says a lot about the people that are from here as well as the players.
You'll find that, Joe, you'll find that in a lot of the older teams that won championships. I'll go to like the Calgary Flames when they won the Stanley Cup. A lot of the guys still live in Calgary, and that was before free agency. You don't see it much anymore because of free agency. A lot of times a team wins a championship, but they've only played there 2 years. They've only played there one season, and then they're up for their free agent and they're gone.
Right.
And they don't ever set down roots. They never really become a part of the community. That's the signature of the Flyers. The early Flyers especially, is they were a part of the community.
You play with other teams, Brad. Joe, long career in the NHL. Somebody asked me this week, Brad, and I had no idea. I'm not an NHL player, obviously. What is a Philadelphia Flyer? And I said, I'm going to have to ask Mr. Marsh that on my show this week. Either one of you guys or both of you. What is a Philadelphia Flyer, and is it different than a Calgary Flame is or any of the other teams you play for, Brad?
Well, I think it is a little bit different, and this is no disrespect to the modern-day athlete or hockey player or any player, and I touched on it earlier when we were talking about the old-time players. The game was much simpler back then, and the players would practice, and then they'd go out for lunch as a team. And they didn't go to a fancy place, Joe. They just went to the closest place to that was to the restaurant. And when they went to that restaurant, they weren't worried about sitting in a private room like they are now. And once again, this isn't pointed at anybody in particular. It's just how movie stars are, for heaven's sakes, and professional athletes are. They think they're privileged. And they would go into a bar, and if it was crowded, they'd wait their turn to sit down. They didn't expect anything different. And then next thing you know, they'd be nuzzling their way up to the bar, and hey, how you doing, buddy? And how you doing, buddy? And next thing you know, it's one big family affair. And so I think that's a common denominator. Once again, I've said it a couple of times in a lot of old-time sports, old-time athletes that played whatever the respective sport was. In Philadelphia, the Broad Street Bullies in South Philly, et cetera, et cetera. They really, really embraced these old guys here because they were just the same as them. They just happened to play hockey.
You agree with that, Joe?
Yeah, I agree with that because I tell you, when you look at, we're ordinary people. We're ordinary people. We got 2 arms and 2 legs and 2 eyes
and 2 rings.
And you know what? And we were playing an environment that people really adored sports. And Philadelphia is a hard-working mentality. You work hard for your money. You spend your money the way you want to spend it. When you go out they're expecting when you go out in the field or the ice or the floor or something, they want their money's worth. They don't get their money's worth, they will let you know. And I think that's why the Broad Street Bullies or the Flyers themselves are very welcomed in the area community because of the work ethic that we had when I played or when the Bullies played.
Brad, do you have something? Go ahead. You have something to add? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. But just when the Bullies played, I mean, and not only the Bullies. I mean, other teams. Brad's team made long runs at the Cup and didn't make it, but they came very close. You're darn right. And I think if they didn't have all these injuries that they had when they were going for it, Timmy Kerr, they're missing Timmy Kerr. Holy mackerel, missed Timmy Kerr. Not only him, there are other players too.
I think the other team had a few good. The other team had a few good players.
Yeah, but they didn't have any injuries for Christ. Yeah. You guys went through a lot of injuries.
They were well rested as well.
Oh, sure, hell yeah. So
we're going to talk about this Flyer team, which does have some injuries and some problems, losing 4 in a row. But first, back to you guys, both of you. Brad, you're the head of alumni for the Philadelphia Flyers. Head of the alumni. Joe, you worked for the team forever. Just retired, I think, last year, 2 years ago. What is it about this team that brought you back after your playing days to work for them and to settle here in some cases, Brad?
Well, for myself, I retired. My last team I played for was the Ottawa Senators, and we decided to stay there, my wife and I, who is from the area, because we had 4 young kids, and to be honest, I wanted them to grow up like me, playing outside on the frozen rink that I made for them, or walking down the street corner.
You were the dad that did that?
We used to go to, there's a golf course on one of the water holes that would freeze, and we kept it, you put a hole in the ice and you have a pump there and it floods the ice and they skate on it. And that's how I wanted my kids to grow up. But once they graduated university and they all got their adult jobs, as they refer to them, my wife and I decided to move back to Philly. She's from the area, very large family. And of course, talking with Paul Holmgren, I got a job with the Philadelphia Flyers in the community development department, and obviously I run the alumni as well. So it was an easy decision to come back here. It's a great area, great sports community. Obviously I cheer for the hockey team the most, but it's really exciting to see the success of the other teams because this area is just vibrant with all the sports.
Joe, you worked in sales for the Flyers for a long time, and got to ask you this question. Joe Watson selling something to a customer, would that be different than Joe Phillips, who never played for the Flyers, didn't win 2 rings? How advantageous was your playing career to your Flyers career after you played?
Absolutely right. My God, when I got into sales, they asked me to sell a magazine. And
the program. They don't have a program anymore. I wish they did, man.
Online, yep.
So that was 1984, and I said, okay. So I started selling a magazine, and at that time, they were bringing in about $250,000 a year in the magazine. Well, I got involved with it, and Craig, we went over to $400,000. We bought it the very first year. So then they said, well, God, if you're having that much success, why don't you sell advertising in the building, signage, with Ivan Schlickman. Ivan Schlickman was, I think he was a cat's meow as far as the sales was. I learned a lot from Ivan, and it really worked out very well. But I'll never forget, I went up to New York one time. I went to a show in New York, my wife and I. And I get in line to get the tickets. And I says, my name is Watson, I'm looking for tickets. And the guy says, Joe Watson? I says, yeah. He says, I got your tickets here. You know what? I still friggin' hate you guys. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, you guys, what you did to my beloved Rangers in '74.
Yeah.
And now that was 15 years later, for God, the guy never forgot
Were
it.
you up in the rafters?
Huh?
Did he switch your tickets? Were you up in the rafters?
No. But I went. But anyway, the impact that the Bullies made, not only in Philadelphia, but all over. There was a friend of mine just came back from Czechoslovakia. You get in the cab. This is about a month and a half ago, and he gets in the cab, and the cabbie says, "Where are you from? America? Yeah, America, Philadelphia." He says, "The Bullies, the Broad Street Bullies." Says, "Yeah, the guy. That's Czechoslovakia, for Christ's
Wow.
sake." And so people, it was an iconic name, and it is today. Doesn't matter where you go. If you're in a big city and you're a hockey fan, you remember the Bullies.
Well, that takes us to another part of our show tonight, which I'm proud to be able to mention that normally we don't, obviously. This show used to be hosted by Bill Clement. I worked with Bill a couple years, then Bill moved to North Carolina. Bill played with you on the Bullies.
Yep.
Joe, I don't think you ever played with Bill, Brad, did you? You did play with Bill.
Played with him in Atlanta Flames, Calgary Flames.
You never know a question until you ask. We're
That's
all
right.
wrong.
Yeah.
We want to congratulate Bill and Al Morgani from WIP,
Yeah,
where
right.
I also work, on their induction into the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Al got the Elmer Ferguson Award, Bill the Foster Hewitt Award, inducted Monday night. Supreme congratulations to Bill and Al from all of us here at the WBCB. I'm sure you guys second that, huh?
No,
Oh,
absolutely.
100%.
Right.
Bill, well, Al covered the team when I played here, as I traded here in '81. Just a great writer, understands the game. I enjoy listening to him on the morning show. But Bill, he was a teammate, and he was the best in the business. And I loved watching the Flyers games when he did it, and I think the Flyers fans miss him. He was the best in the business. Bill was.
He sure was. And there was something Saturday night also that I feel like I have to mention here, and he's earned it. You coach the Warriors, Brad. We'll talk about the Warriors in a little while. Ex-military who have done superb things in life and play hockey, and it's a great thing. There was a Warrior honored in Toronto Saturday night who wasn't in the military that I know of, a Swedish guy that I know Joe played against, Börje Salming.
Oh.
And I would assume you played against him too, Brad.
I played with him.
Played with him.
In
That's,
Toronto.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
0 for 2 tonight.
Do your homework. Bill,
I should.
Bill Clement did his homework.
There we are.
And he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and that's
Failing
why.
to
There you
prepare
go.
is preparing to fail. John Wooden. But
Yeah.
Börje, unfortunately, has ALS. He got it in July, and he was in town in Toronto for the Hall of Fame inductions this weekend. And Toronto honored him with all kinds of stuff about the Swedes on their team, one of the all-time greats. He's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Anything either you guys want to say about Börje Salming?
Yeah, I want to tell you a story. So we're in the playoffs against them in '76, and war broke out. It was kind of a war. The whole series was kind of a war game. It was just crazy. I mean, there's so much going on the ice, and some off the ice too. But in the second period, the Hound and my brother are Salming and my brother on the boards are kind of fighting for the puck, and the Hound didn't like him. The Hound came charging in there. He was going to hit him, and Salming looked to see him coming. He ducked down like this. The Hound got Jimmy in the ear, and he hung his ear for 35 stitches. His
Wow.
bloody ear was just hanging there.
35 stitches.
35 stitches in
Wow.
his bloody ear, and the Hound says,
Friendly
"Oh, Jimmy."
fire, huh?
And Jimmy says, "What what are you doing?" And the Hound says, "Oh, I didn't mean to get you. I tried to get Salming, but I missed him and got you." His freaking ear was hanging there, for
That's
Christ's
amazing.
sake.
Brad, you guys really are a brotherhood. I mean,
Oh,
you say what you
boy.
want about Joe's story about Hound wanted to kill Salming. That's now 40 years later. You guys are a real brotherhood in the NHL, whether you played with guys or not. Obviously, nobody wants anybody to get ALS, but can you talk about the brotherhood that I'm sure all athletes or all professions foster, but is extreme in the NHL? It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've said many times the NHL alumni is the best in the business. None of the other pro sports does what the NHL alumni does. And back when we played, there was no camaraderie on the ice. And if your buddy played on the other team, you never spoke to him. In the rink, you never let anybody see you spoke to him. And if you wanted
Even
to
the Sutters? Brothers?
Yeah, you never spoke to the opposition. Okay. If you wanted to meet them, you met them somewhere else after the game or the night before or something like that.
Okay.
And so you quite often, hate is a strong word, but you dislike the opposition so much. But now in retirement, when we have all these NHL alumni functions, we have all these Flyer functions, it's so great to see the alumni from all the generations come together, or you go to an alumni event and you see someone that you battled against and you haven't seen them since you retired 20, 30 years ago, whatever the case may be. But it picks up just like that, and whether you're teammates or not, because we all shared something in common. And it is really neat to see the alumni guys, the hockey guys come together, tell stories, laugh, and so on and so on. It's pretty cool.
So when Fred Sherrill said, win today and walk together forever, you walk together forever in a different way, no matter who you are, who you played for. That is tremendous stuff. You're listening On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross, live from Chickies and Pete's in Drexel Hill on 1490 WBCB. It's time now for the Independence Blue Cross Live Fearless Player of the Week. Flyers didn't have a good week. They lost 4 in a row, 3 of them this week. Each week we reward a Flyer with this honor. This week, it's Nick Seeler, who in 4 losses didn't have a game in which he wasn't a plus, went +4, playing good defense for the Flyers, who aren't scoring enough, not playing good enough defense. But Nick Seeler is our Flyer Player of the Week. Remember to choose Independence Blue Cross today and begin to live fearless. We're here with Joe Watson, our co-host Brad Marsh from Chickies and Pete in Drexel Hill. A lot of nice people want to come up and get these guys to sign something, so we'll do that and come back in a second. This is the Independence Blue Cross on the ice. Back in a minute.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Dine in for these amazing fall specials. Wednesday is crab night. 2 pounds of snow crab legs, $49.99. Or mix it up with 2 pounds of snow crab legs and 4 hard shells for $79.99. Thursdays are for the birds. Whatever the Eagles score on Sunday, you get to save on wings at Chicky and Pete's on Thursday. Plus, limited time fall specials, including bomb pork belly tacos and the garlic truffle burger. Wash it down with our pear elderflower mule or apple cider old fashioned. Chickies and Pete's.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
If you're looking for a stylish and sophisticated fine dining experience, visit your Eddie V's Prime Seafood restaurant near King of Prussia. Eddie V's Seafood features an abundant selection of fine wines and curated cocktails to complement exquisite steaks and seafood made from the highest quality ingredients. In the V Lounge, sip on imaginative handcrafted cocktails with attitude while enjoying signature appetizers. Conveniently located between I-276 and I-76 near the King of Prussia Mall. Call them today, 610-337-7823 to schedule your night out for Eddie V's Prime Seafood.
We
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
Welcome back to Chickies and Pete's in beautiful Drexel Hill. We're next week, the night before Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. If you can't join us then, we'll be with Frank Bialois, Chickies and Pete's, the new one in Malvern with Bernie Perrant. We look forward to that. And it's time now for the Smart Stat of the Week, brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them today at 1-866-PAY-EASY. That's 1-866-PAY-EASY. Flyers, what?
Oh, okay.
Flyers trailed a lot last year and never seemed to come back. They've trailed 8 times this year, 2-0, but they've caught up in 5 of them. They have resilience. They don't quit, but they fall behind. That's got to change. 8 times they've been down 2-0 in 16 games. That was your Flyers Smart Stat of the Week. Flyers have to do something about that. Once again, brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for the smart choice in payroll services. Payroll Service Solutions, catering to small and medium-sized business to handle all of your payroll needs. Call them once again at 1-866-PAY-EASY. And the Flyers looked back a little bit last weekend, guys, before we get into the current team. Some guy named Claude, who they drafted in the first round many years ago, was captain of his team for 7-8 years. Claude Giroux came in with the Ottawa Senators. They played twice this year, once in Ottawa. Claude came in, second leading scorer in Flyer history, second in games to Bobby Clark. Got a wonderful ovation from the fans, a beautiful video. What were your guys' thoughts about that?
Well, I remember when the Flyers in the draft, when the Flyers drafted him.
Clark, you mispronounced his name.
Yeah, right.
We forgot his name.
Clark, he couldn't remember his name.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't remember his name,
his
so
name
obviously he made quite an impact. Yeah, what's his name again?
Yeah.
Jesus God. But he was a.
Which to me, I'll jump in, which to me, I mean, there's so many, I forget what number he was selected in the first round, but
I think it was number 13, 12
but
or
there's
13.
so many different players that the scouting staff and the GM and the team are looking at. And so if this player gets selected prior to 13, then that changes their whole thought process.
Sure.
And so to me, that says
That's what
obviously he was a great
Yeah.
Flyer, but
Yeah.
what that tells me is he wasn't the guy that they had their eye on.
Yep.
Yep. And
Plan
so
B.
he had Clarkie probably during that day in the draft. They probably had 4, 5, 6 different players in mind that they wanted to select, and he got up there and he drew. At least he was smart enough to say, "I forget what was his name." As if he said a different name.
What's his name?
Yeah, he said a different name. Somebody that was already
God,
selected,
yeah.
for heaven's sakes.
Oh boy.
Nobody forgot his name last Saturday, Joe, huh?
No, you know what, Claude. I didn't see Claude that often, but every once in a while, when I did see him, give me a hand, give me a little hug here and there. We'd hug each other, and he was a very skilled player. Of all the players the Flyers have had, I've seen every player the Flyers have acquired in a trade or draft, because I've been here 54 years.
Ever, right?
Ever.
Yeah, wow.
And the 4 most skilled players the Flyers have ever had: Giroux, Forsberg, McLeish, and Lindros are the 4 most skilled players the Flyers are. Natural ability.
Frankie Bialois might have a problem with that. He's our guest next week. You wouldn't put him in
How
that
the
mix?
hell did you find him, for Christ's sake?
So Giroux's one of them? One of the 4 most skilled players, huh?
Yeah, natural ability. I'll go with natural ability, yeah. McLeish,
Passed away.
Forsberg, Forsberg, and just think if when the Flyers made that trade with Quebec to get Lindros, and the trade was supposed to be Brindamore, and the Flyers said, no, we know what we have in Brindamore, we don't know what we have in Forsberg. So they gave Forsberg up. Just think it had Lindros and Forsberg together, Lindros and Forsberg together, the power play, and the team they would have had 2 centermen like that. They would have won Stanley Cups, multiple Stanley Cups.
That's why somebody made up
would've.
the word oops, huh? Brad, who are the 4 best or 3 best or whatever? Obviously Gretzky, I'll give him that for you, but who are the most talented players you ever played against?
Well, one of the most
That maybe wouldn't be obvious.
Kent Nielsen, one of the first Swedes to come over. He was the original Magic Man. That was the nickname that they gave him. Gretzky even is on record as saying he's the most talented player that he played with. He could do things with the puck that I've never seen before. Unfortunately, he he didn't compete as hard. I think he was a little timid of the corners and so on and so on. But skill, man, skate, stick handle, shoot, he could do it all, and very talented. So Kent Nielsen was the most talented or skilled player that I've played with and against.
All right, cool. And then Claude Giroux, back to him to recycle to the current Flyers, Joe and Brad. Claude Giroux was a captain of this team for many years. You had Bobby Clark. Joe, Brad, you were a captain in your NHL career, an assistant captain with the Flyers, who don't have a captain now. Scotty Lawton wears the A, nobody else wears a number. How important is a captain? Is it all fluff, or is there meaning to it in the locker room? And do you think the Flyers will let a guy wear the C this year? Could it be Sean Couturier? Could it be Scotty Lawton? Joe, how important is the C in hockey, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, he's a conduit between the management and the players. And when there's problems, he goes to the coach, or sometimes he goes to the general manager. And I think the general manager will have a tendency to go to talk to the captain once in a while, as well as the coach or assistant coaches. So I think it's a very important position. And sometimes you probably don't like the position because of all the things you have to do. The captain has to try to keep the team together when things aren't going well, and he has to get up and say a few words when things aren't going well on the ice in between periods. And I can remember a lot of times, I was assistant captain and Clarkie was a captain, and Clarkie would come over and say to me, Joe, I want you to say something. I thought, okay, so I would say something, but geez, it didn't go over very well sometimes. I remember I said something to Ross Lonsberry when we were playing Boston, and Lonsberry was on my side and I was on the left side, and he had Kenny Hodge, I thought, tied up, so I stood up the blue line to make the guy make the pass, and Craigie he threw him the pass. Hodge walked in. Well, Ross was on the outside instead of the inside. I guess he wasn't expecting the pass. So I said, Jesus Christ, you got to be in the inside of the guy. So I go in the dressing room when this happens, after the period, and I said, Ross, what the hell happened? I said, you're supposed to be in the inside, not the outside. He freaking blew up and everything else. Oh,
it's interesting that you say that, because Bernie Parent always, and I mean multiple times, talks about communication on the ice and how you were the best at it. And somebody come down, and if you went to this side, he'd do this and that side. But he said communication was vital between you guys. Apparently, not always, huh?
Well, everybody thinks differently. Everything, but you're taught the proper way. And Ross just got on the outside of him. And Hodge was so big, he thought maybe would eventually catch him, but he didn't. And he scored a goal, and I came back. I was mad, and So anyway, come in the dressing room, and Clarkie said, Joe, I want you to say something. I said, oh, shoot, okay. So I said to Lonsberry, and, and oh, God almighty, blew up. Anyway, you know what? We're not here to hurt we're not here to hinder anybody. We're here to help people. And that's why I looked at it, and I said that. I'm not here criticizing you. I'm just telling you, and he realized where he should have been, but he wasn't. So it didn't go over very well.
I assume that.
Well, that happened a number of times. Sure. Number of times it happened. And Brad's probably going to do the same damn thing.
How important is it, Brad, for someone to wear the C? Is it ceremonial, meaningful, somewhere in between?
Well, I've said many times, that you look at a successful team, and they could have 10 captains. And
that's a great point.
The problem, I think, with the team that we've had over the last number of years is, yes, Claude wore the C, but there was not enough players to back up in the leadership role. And our leadership was lacking, in my opinion, over the last number of years. And that wasn't, and I always say that's not pointing a finger at Giroux. That's pointing a finger at the dressing room. We did not have enough leadership, and I always use the Islanders as an example. The years that they won the 4 Stanley Cups in a row, they could have had 10 captains.
Yeah, they had a ton of them.
Yeah, and they had a whole bunch of leaders. And if you look at the team in the 80s that we had here, yes, Davey Poulin wore the captain, and myself and Mark Howe were the assistants. But we could have had a ton of captains on those teams in the 80s. The Talkett's, the Sutters. McCrimmon, and the list goes on and on and on. And we just had a great team, and everybody was together, and the leadership of that group steered the ship.
John Tortorella, go ahead, John.
So I just want to add a note here.
Yep.
When the Flyers played the Islanders in 1980, Stanley Cup Finals.
Yep.
We got a royal screw by the officials.
Yep.
Leon Stickle. Leon Stickle.
And Bruce, there was some number. Potman scored a goal. The puck was over his head. Stick was above his head. They allowed that goal. We were leading 3-2 in the very first game in Philadelphia. With 2 minutes to go, they call a penalty on Al Hill. Al Hill broke his stick, and he went to the bench, but he threw his stick. And the puck his stick hit the goddamn puck. They call a penalty on him.
Just
so now
coincidence?
so now because I guess I don't know what happened, but anyway, they call a penalty and they tie it up and we go into overtime. But if you look back in that series, Flyers beat them 9-3 the next night. 2 nights later, beat them 9-3, dominated them, and if those calls hadn't been made, the Islanders wouldn't have won 4 Stanley Cups. They would have broke their team up.
Well, you know what they say about game of inches or game of slight changes here and there.
Well, that offside call that Leon missed, it wasn't inches.
No, it's 2.5 feet.
It was 3-4 feet.
It was. I'm not a person that goes against the refs a whole lot, but that call was.
But the thing is, if you look at it, Leon's a great guy.
Yeah.
Oh, he was a great official and a fun guy. And he was back in the day. You would. There wasn't a lot of beer bars on the road. You know, we didn't go to the fancy nightclubs that they do now. We'd go to, and the referees were in there. Leon was a great guy to have a beer with. But if you got to imagine the linesmen, when they get in there, they straddle the blue line looking at offsides. They're looking an inch this way and an inch this way. And then that was so far offside. That wasn't even in his peripheral vision, for heaven's sake.
You're wondering about the Philadelphia fans, folks. I've been to Flyer games forever and ever and ever. It must have been 25 years later. Leon Stickle was a supervisor. He'd have his name mentioned for whatever reason at the Wells Fargo Center. He would get drowned out by boos long after.
Yeah.
Great guy, though.
Philadelphia fans
Great
remember.
guy.
Yep.
Oh, God.
John Tortorella doesn't have a whole lot to work with. You're talking about the Islanders and their 10 captains, and John Tortorella doesn't have the leadership, doesn't have the talent. What does he have? He has a team that works hard, plays hard, believes in himself. Not going real well right now. We'll slice and dice that when we come back to the Independence Blue Cross on the Ice with Brad and Joe right after this. Stay with us, folks.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicken Pete's Incredible Crab Specials Wednesdays this fall. 2 pounds of snow crab legs for $49.99 or 2 pounds of snow crab legs and 4 hard shells for $79.99. Thursdays is Chicken Pete's Go Birds Wing Special. Whatever the Eagles score on Sunday, get that percentage off your wings on Thursday. Higher score, bigger discount. Plus our fall specialty menu with the mouth-watering garlic truffle burger and B-Dog Impact Nachos. Enjoy a pumpkin shandy or a smoked apple cider margarita. Chickies and Pete's.
I'm always striving to live my healthiest life, so I need a health plan that has my back. With Independence Blue Cross, I get access to the largest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free virtual doctor visits 24/7. Plus, with premiums as low as $0 per month, I can stay on top of my health and keep my budget in check. Independence has given me coverage I can count on, and they'll do the same for you. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at IBX.com.
If you're looking for a stylish and sophisticated fine dining experience, visit your Eddie V's Prime Seafood restaurant near King of Prussia. Eddie V's Seafood features an abundant selection of fine wines and curated cocktails to complement exquisite steaks and seafood made from the highest quality ingredients. In the V Lounge, sip on imaginative handcrafted cocktails with attitude while enjoying signature appetizers. Conveniently located between I-276 and I-76 near the King of Prussia Mall. Call them today, 610-337-7823 to schedule your night out for Eddie V's Prime Seafood.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
We are here with Brad Marsh and Joe Watson, Chickies and Pete's in Drexel Hill. We'll talk about the Warriors in a few minutes with Brad. Joe has had a wonderful career as a Flyer, working with the Flyers, retired peacefully now, shooting in the 60s.
Peacefully.
Playing golf all over the area. Yep, all kinds of fun stuff with his brother Jimmy. And I understand you've written a book.
Yes.
Well, let's clarify that. Joe told the story. Someone else wrote the book.
That's true.
I thought you were going to say it's only
Bill
pictures.
Meltzer, a fine writer. And I got
I know
the
Bill
idea.
very well,
Yeah, I got the idea, and we went to Russia 4 years ago, something like that. Yeah. And Brad.
You looked at Brad. Did you guys go to Russia together?
Yeah.
The alumni went to Russia?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we did many alumni. We had 9 guys from here, and then we had to bring in 4 or 5 other guys. But we went to Russia, and Bill was on the trip, and I heard a lot of people were following our trip to Russia, and the great job that Bill was doing. I says, holy shoot. And when we got back, I remember people coming up to me and
I
saying,
don't think you said holy shoot, by the way.
holy shoot. Holy shoot. So I says, you know what? If I ever decide to do a book, I'm going to get Bill Meltzer. And people kept on saying to me, you should do a book. You got a lot of great stories. I said, well, okay. I think we all got great stories. But I says, okay. So that's what we're doing. So
It's awesome.
it's been almost 2 years now.
And the idea of
and
the
we're
title?
getting
yet?
there.
The book starts, and it's run on sentence for 14 chapters.
Yeah.
There we are. What's it
You
called?
Well, we haven't got a name of it yet. But we have the picture.
Blue Line, maybe?
We have the picture.
Orange
No,
and
I don't
blue?
know what's going to be called. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But we got it. We got the picture and everything else. And picture of me standing on the bench in the dressing
Don't
room.
give it all away yet, Joe.
Yeah.
Keep them in the suspense.
But anyway, it's
Looking
me and
forward.
Mr. Snyder looking at me and got his hand up there. I got my thumbs up like this, and I got beer, Bubba Louie in my hand, and he's got his thumb like this. And so, yeah. So that's what the picture's going to be in the book.
How much you miss him, by the way? Obviously, both of you guys played for him. Everybody knows Ed Snyder's role in bringing the Flyers to Philadelphia and his enthusiasm. How different is it now? How much do you miss him?
Oh, God. You know what? 3 weeks before he passed on, they took Clarkie, Bernie, and myself out to see him out in California where he was living. And we were there for 3 days, and he was skin and bone. Oh, my God. He was skin and bone, and we were there having a great time. And as we were leaving, he comes up to me, he says, Joe, he says, you know, people might know each other 50 years, but I haven't worked together 50 years, and you and I have been together for 50 friggin' years working. And I never thought much of that until he mentioned that to me, and I think about it frequently. And when I see his daughters, sometimes, I'll mention it to them, Jay, Greg, and how much of an impact he made on us. I think I can speak on behalf of all the players that he made a big impact on the players, the present players that were here when he was here. And he was an owner. All he wanted to do was win. There's nothing wrong with wanting to win.
Nothing wrong at all.
Nothing wrong wanting to win, man. And he never blows smoke up his rear end like a lot of owners do in sports today. He was just a guy that wanted to win.
Mr. Marsh, same question.
And actually, Joe brings that up. If I remember one of the critical things that some people would say with regards to Mr. Snyder was exactly what Joe said. He wanted to win, and sometimes he would let that get in his way of decisions, and because people would say, well, "Why'd you fire the coach? Why'd you make this trade? Why'd you do this?" Because I want to win. And if he saw something that he didn't like, he made his mind up like that. He was making a change. He was doing this, and he played. He owned the franchise, and the message down to us is we play every game to win. None of this crap that we lived through with the 76ers. Trust the process, and they tanked it. That's an insult. That's an insult to the sporting fans. He played to win.
You know who Herman Edwards is?
Who?
Herman Edwards on ESPN used to play with the Eagles.
Oh, I know the name, yeah.
He's a coach of the Jets, and the question came up to him. He goes, "You play to win the game." That was Ed Snyder too, huh?
Yeah. Played to win the game,
Yeah.
and
Anybody can lose.
That was the expectation in the dressing room, whether it was game 1 of the season, game 40, game 80, we played to win, period.
Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's just a good way to segue into the current team. Obviously, 4-game losing streak, hot start. Carter Hart saved the bacon a lot early in the season. 5-on-5 hasn't been good. A little bit better lately. Power play hasn't been good. Scored 41 goals, third least in the league. A lot of people talk about a lack of talent with the injuries. Carter Hart is playing well, but Cam Atkinson, Sean Couturier, JVR, Wade Allison now hurt. I mean, obviously they're not the most talented team in the league, but guys, how do they right the ship? I mean, they're not going to win the Stanley Cup, I don't think, this year, but they did play better for a 10, 12-game stretch. What does Torts have to do to get it back?
Well, you watched the game last night?
Yep.
The reason they lost the game last night is a bad line changes. Bad frigging line changes. Jesus God almighty. And I'm going to tell you something. When Freddie Shiro, our coach, every once in a while we would have a practice. Well, we practice every day, but our practice, and we made bad line changes, we would have a 15-minute scrimmage about line changes. And that means the players had to concentrate on their player that they're taking their position when they come off the ice. And we used to do this every once in a while because we made a bad line change, a goal was scored, Freddie would blow up, get mad. And so we would practice, and I hope they practice bloody line changes, because that's not only happened today. Last night. It has happened during the course of the season already.
And when
they've only played 17 games.
Sure, when you're not, Brad, obviously the most talented team in the league, the little things get magnified, huh?
Well, exactly, and the line changes. Is it the responsibility of the player that's sitting on the bench to be ready to go? Is it the responsibility of the player coming to the bench for the change? Did he say anything?
Right.
Did he yell? Change up? I'm not sure exactly. Obviously, we're not sitting on the bench, but it's the little things. And when you're not as skilled and you can't score goals like some of the other teams, the little things do add up and are magnified in the instance when they happen.
We talked about the stat of the week earlier. They've fallen behind 2-0 8 times. And what they've done this year that they didn't do last year is come back from some of those. They haven't won all the games, but they've come back 5 times to tie games. They've won a couple of them, but they have fallen behind. It's a duh kind of question. Nobody tries to fall behind, but how do you come out of the gate stronger? How do you get ahead? Because obviously playing from ahead is easier than playing from behind.
I think it's preparation. By God, you got to reinforce in their mind. Listen, we've been getting down here in the games, early in the games. We can't afford to do that. We're not as skilled as a lot of the teams we're playing. So you've got to concentrate more out there. And we got some guys. I don't know why some of the guys, couple players, are playing at the National League level right now. They shouldn't be. And they're good American League hockey players, but unfortunately we don't have the talent that other teams have. So they have to play. And I'm not going to name, but if you watch the game closely, you can figure it out, who should be and who shouldn't be. And these are draft picks that we drafted a few years ago. Terrible.
I respect the hell out of you for a lot of reasons, but you've been with the Flyers a very long time, and you've won cups. You have nothing to worry about legacy. You look fired up right now, and I love that. This team is not playing well. And a guy like this, a grizzled veteran, a respected guy, is really upset. That's the Flyer way, isn't it?
Yeah, damn right it is. Anybody can lose, but not anybody can win. It takes a special breed to win. And right now, I think he's done a hell of a job with the coach. He really, with what he has to handle, I think there's got to be a little more discipline on the ice. Guys are out of position quite frequently sometimes. You take a look at the goals last night. The goalie was left by himself. All those goals they scored at Carter Hart last night weren't his fault. He had made the initial save in a lot of them, with the exception of the third one. And there's nobody there to clear the puck. Nobody.
So,
you couldn't find the bloody defense, for Christ's sake. And not only defense, it's the forwards too,
Well, it's endemic all over the ice, Brad. And Carter Hart, again, was 6-0-2. Goals against under 2. Hadn't played very well the last couple games. But Joe brings up a good point that he's at the mercy of his defense and his players as well. How do you see the whole thing working out? And can you depend on a goalie the entire year? I don't see how that's possible.
Well, I think you can depend on a goalie. Obviously, he's not going to stand on his head and so on. But what you want out of your goalie is to make the save at the right time in the game. And quite often, I personally think that our team, they're working hard. They're working as harder than I've seen them work in the last number of years. And
are they working
there were some games, in the past seasons when they weren't ready to play the game. I think they are ready to play this year. They're out there working. Sometimes they're not working smart, as you just said. And so the goal does go in, and this is when we need our Carter Hart or our goaltending, who's ever in the net, is to hold the fort and make that big save so we don't fall behind, not to put all the pressure, all the onus on the goalie. But if you look at the good goalies or even quarterbacks in football, they make the pass on the third down. They find a way to make that completion. And the way we are right now, we need the goalie to make the save at the right time of the game, so we don't fall behind, we don't get behind the 8 ball, et cetera, et cetera.
And tomorrow night, this 3-game road show continues in Boston, where the Bruins have only won all 9 games at home. They're 14-2. Nobody expects the Flyers to win. Sometimes that's the best.
We're going to win tomorrow.
Well, that's the best way to do it. Nobody thought the Eagles would lose Monday night. Sometimes you get ambushed in pro sports. Hopefully tomorrow night's one of them. We'll continue to talk about the Flyers, this year's team with Joe Watson. Our co-host is Brad Marsh here at Chickies and Pete's in Drexel Hill, where we'll be back with our final segment of On the Ice right after this.
Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's, and we know Saturdays in the fall are special. Why? College football. And we have you covered with food and drink specials and the best in-game experience to watch your team or the college football game of the week. Come watch Penn State, Temple, Villanova, Notre Dame, Texas, Michigan, Georgia, and more. College football Saturdays are special at Chickies and Pete's.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
If you're looking for a stylish and sophisticated fine dining experience, visit your Eddie V's Prime Seafood restaurant near King of Prussia. Eddie V's Seafood features an abundant selection of fine wines and curated cocktails to complement exquisite steaks and seafood made from the highest quality ingredients. In the V Lounge, sip on imaginative handcrafted cocktails with attitude while enjoying signature appetizers. Conveniently located between I-276 and I-76 near the King of Prussia Mall. Call them today, 610-337-7823 to schedule your night out for Eddie V's Prime Seafood.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
Here at Chickies and Pete's in Drexel Hill. Hey, Joe and Brad, I'm kind of at a loss for words. Somebody asked me to sign something during the break. I've never been asked that before. I feel like Clark.
Well, it goes to show they know the game.
I'm not sure they do know the game. Think I played or something like that. Brad was in shock when I was asked that question. You recovered now, Brad?
Did you know how to spell your name?
Yeah, P-A-U-L.
It was a messy autograph, too.
That's true.
Messy autograph.
Terrible penmanship. Not used to signing. But, Joe, Brad, Flyers on the road now, 3 games. Lost 4 in a row. I'm not sure this is a comparison to last year or a tipping point or a test of Tortorella's system or the belief in it or whatever that is. But the question is about the road. Is it easier to bond together? Obviously, you have dinner together. You're together all the time on the road, not at home. Is this road trip a good chance to not only win some games but come together as a team, guys?
I think so. I used to love going on the road. You know, you're with your team, and
you get to
there's
sleep.
no
You have
pressure.
4 kids.
Well, exactly. And but no, the road trips were great as a team, and you know, we looked forward to the road, and we didn't charter. We flew commercial back in the day, and so we had a lot of fun as a group, as a team, on the road, whether it be sitting in an airport waiting for a flight or whatever. But it was a different time. The pro athletes now they charter everywhere, and they spend very few nights away.
Poker games on the plane?
We never played. It wasn't.
No.
We weren't allowed to play. It was banned. Gambling within the team was against the rules.
Wow.
And Al McNeil brought that in, and he maintained that if you. And of course, the stakes were a little different back then than they are now.
Money,
but
right.
Yeah.
He says if you owed your teammate $50, that would affect how you played together in a game if you had a debt with a teammate.
You buy that, Joe?
So it wasn't allowed.
I've never heard that before, but that's different. Al McNeil, I mean, I played against Al McNeil. Yeah, he was a good player for Montreal. He was a defenseman, man.
Yeah,
right?
he coached the Canadians.
Sure,
Stanley
sure.
Cup.
I liked Al McNeil. I didn't know.
But anyhow, the road trips were fun to be on, and it was a good time. And I tell you, a lot of times the problems of the team were solved on the road because you were forced to talk it out and hash it out.
Well, playing Boston, obviously the best team in the league, the best team at home in the league. Maybe overlooking the Flyers. This would be a perfect spot to ambush a team, get your mojo back. You guys have always played well in Montreal, no matter who their team is, no matter who the Flyers are. The Sweaters seem to just play well at the Bell Center up in Montreal. Joe, what do you like on the road? You were before Brad, obviously. Did you guys used to drive to Western Canada? Were there planes back then?
Drive?
That was a joke. He's trying to be a comedian.
Right, drive, yeah.
Tell him to stick to being a sports co-host.
Oh, boy.
There we are.
You know, I enjoyed playing in Boston because, you know, I played in Boston before coming to the Flyers. And, you know, you had to get back in your own zone. Being a defense, you had to get back in your own zone because the rink was smaller. And the ice surface was smaller. And, you know, when Boston,
man.
the way they played, my God.
Terry O'Reilly, Stan Jonathan.
Oh, boy. They were bearing down on you.
Breathing down your nose.
I know you had to get back there quickly and get the puck.
Great
the hell
place
out.
to play, though.
Oh,
Joe,
sure,
even
was,
though
sure.
the rats in Old Boston Garden were huge. You'd walk into the rink and you'd see them all crawling around in the stands. I don't think they ever cleaned the damn.
Parquet floor for basketball, rats for hockey.
Yeah,
they're pretty good now. I mean, they made a coaching change, and 14-2. And
Old Flyers coaching them.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
You know what, Jim Montgomery? He's the one that coined the phrase Legion of Doom.
Was he?
Jim Montgomery, the Legion of Doom. Yes, sirree.
Well, how do you become the Legion of Doom tomorrow? Did you find that you like to play teams like that they may overlook you or something that you really get a big skin by beating them, Brad?
Oh yeah, it's they've had the Bruins are one of the iconic franchises.
Yep.
Used to get up to play the Bruins. You mentioned Montreal. Oh man, as a Canadian kid to play the Montreal Canadiens or the Toronto Maple Leafs. And back in our day, it was the Forum and it was Maple Leaf Gardens. Oh man, for a Canadian kid to go in there and play, it was something special. Boston Bruins, the same thing. They're very, very good. Me, when I was very fortunate, my first year in the league. Was Bobby Orr's last year, but I got to play against Bobby Orr. That was a thrill to be on the ice with Bobby Orr. And but so the Bruins, they won the Cup not long ago. They've been in the finals several times, and so the players will be up to play them.
What was it like playing against Bobby Orr, Joe?
I'd rather play with him than against him. The thing about Orr was 9 times out of 10 you knew what he's going to do. But 9 times out of 10, you couldn't stop.
That's the ultimate screw you for an athlete. Green Bay, we're going to run the sweep to the right. Stop it. And if you can't, we're going to kill you.
Yeah, and or you knew what he's going to do, but there's nothing you could do about it.
Same with Wayne Gretzky. I remember we had a coach. Okay, we got it. The thing is about the great players is every time you played them, the coaching staff, they had a plan to stop them, and it never works.
Never works.
Same with Wayne Gretzky.
But I'll tell you,
Wayne Gretzky, the same thing. Okay, you cover his wingers so he had no one to pass to. Oh, he got 3 goals. Okay, now we're going to concentrate on Wayne Gretzky. We're going to leave his wingers open. He had 5 assists. It doesn't work.
That's why Wayne Gretzky's Wayne Gretzky. How close is McCarr to Orr, Joe, do you think, and Brad? McCarr with Colorado is phenomenal.
Don't talk about him. We could have had him here
Flyers should have had him.
Instead of
Nolan
Patrick.
Flyers should have got him.
Yeah.
They had a
the
chance
other
to get him.
missed him too, though.
Huh?
He was the 4th pick, so 3 other teams.
Fourth pick, holy God, man. And we took Nolan Patrick. What a piece of crap he was. Holy Christ.
Don't hold it back.
Oh, God almighty, made me sick. He wasn't nice to people. I mean, we would need autographs signed, and he would come to the goddamn practice and very reluctantly wouldn't sign the bloody thing sometimes. And we needed these for clients. He wouldn't sign.
For you, he wouldn't sign?
No. I'm just saying in general because we had a staff that had to go over there the facility and get autographs signed once or twice a year. And he very reluctantly wouldn't sign a lot of times. It was just terrible.
He was a prima donna.
Oh, God almighty. Oh.
Did you ever play with any of those, Brad?
You know what? I'm sure if you think back, the prima donnas have been in all sports since the dawn of time. But I tell you what, there wasn't many of them because the dressing room would have straightened him out right away.
Yeah.
And if he didn't fit in, there was none of this. He'll be better tomorrow. He'll be better next week or whatever. He'd be sent packing.
That's leadership. That's leadership that's lacking.
All right. Well, you were the captain. You were the captain of the Flames in your career. Did you ever go to a guy who scored a goal, maybe hammed it up or whatever celebration, or somehow was a prima donna and said, none of that in this county, sir? Did you ever do that?
Well, yeah, and I remember, Billy Clement and listening to him talk one time, and the thing is, one of the things that he said, it still sticks with me, is, as a leader, you got to be prepared to have the tough conversations, and everybody is different in how they lead, and a lot of times it's just pulling the player aside and just saying this to them. And it's not, you're not wagging the finger at him, you're not pointing the finger, you're not yelling and screaming, it's just, hey, buddy, do this.
Well, we only got a quick second, 1 minute, but Torts, that's really not his style. He'll at you in public. I think he's very effective, but which way do you go with that, Joe? You out the player in public, you do it in private, does it matter?
I don't think you do it in public. I mean, I don't think you undress a player in public. I think you do it, talk to him, call him aside and talk about this or that, whatever the point you're trying to make. Freddie never had. I play with Harry Sinda, was my coach in Boston, in Oklahoma City. He was never that. The great coaches don't do things like that. They don't dress a player down. They will call him aside and do it. Sure they will. Yeah.
Well, hopefully John Tortorella can get back on track, have the team start going in the right direction tomorrow night in Boston. We only have an hour, so we got to say goodbye now. Love to do 10 more hours, Joe. You've been with us many times before. Hope you are many times again. Thanks so much for being with us, and appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure. I mean, I live 5 minutes from here. Well, it took me 25 minutes to get here today, but I live about 5 minutes away, so it was ideal.
Always love it.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. Happy Thanksgiving, Brad. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, next week we'll be with Frank Bialois in Malvern. Happy Thanksgiving to you if you can't make it. Have a great holiday season. Chris Irmer produced this fine program. Keith Noonan back at the station. Turn the knobs and dials. I'm Paul Jolovitz for Brad Marsh and Joe Watson for Independence Blue Cross on the Ice from Chickies and Pete's in Drexel Hill. Saying good night, everybody, and go Flyers.
You've been listening to On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Tonight's show is an exclusive presentation of 1490 WBCB and heard around the world at WBCB1490.com.
You're listening to 1490 WBCB